Have you ever felt like a stranger in your own life? Like you are wandering far from a home you can't quite remember, but your heart aches for it just the same. This feeling has a name. It is the echo of exile. It is a deep, human longing for a place of belonging, a place of peace, a place where we are fully known and fully loved. We might feel it in the quiet moments of a lonely evening. We might feel it in the midst of a crowd, surrounded by people yet feeling utterly alone. We search for home in countless ways, don't we? We look for it in relationships, in careers, in accomplishments, and in possessions. We try to build our own little kingdoms, our own safe havens, hoping to quiet that persistent whisper that tells us we are not yet home. But these earthly shelters are temporary. They can be shaken. Now, the word judgment can make us a little uncomfortable, can it? It sounds harsh. It sounds final. But what if we looked at God's judgment through a different lens? What if we saw it not as a punishment born of anger, but as a discipline born of profound love? The story of Israel's exile is, without a doubt, a story of judgment. The scriptures are clear about this. This is where we must hold two truths in careful balance. Yes, the people of Israel and Judah sinned, and their sin led to a devastating judgment. But their exile was never outside of God's control, not for one single moment. He is, and is, the king over all of history, weaving even the most painful events into his ultimate redemptive purpose. To truly understand the heartbreak of exile, we have to go back to where the cracks first appeared. After the glorious reign of King Solomon, the nation of Israel was torn in two. It became a family divided against itself, a kingdom with a fractured heart. Its first king set up golden calves for the people to worship, fearing they would return to Jerusalem and his power would be lost. This single act set a tragic pattern that would be followed for centuries. They led the people deeper and deeper into idolatry, embracing the pagan practices of the nations around them. The patience of God, while incredibly vast, is not infinite when it comes to unrepentant sin. The final siege came upon the capital city of Samaria. For 3 long years, the city was surrounded. Imagine the fear, the hunger, and the desperation within those walls. In 722 BC, the city finally fell. He deported the Israelites, scattering them throughout his vast empire. Families were torn apart, communities were shattered. You would think that the southern kingdom of Judah would have learned from the devastating fate of their northern brothers. Kings like Hezekiah and Josiah tore down the idols and restored the temple worship. After these good kings passed away, the nation quickly slid back into its old ways. God raised up the Babylonian Empire under King Nebuchadnezzar to be his instrument of discipline for Judah. They burned the magnificent temple of Solomon to the ground, the very symbol of God's presence with his people. The remaining people were rounded up and led away in chains on the long, sorrowful march to Babylon. After the smoke clears and the dust settles, what is left? After the armies have gone and the captives have been marched away, what remains? A haunting silence, a profound emptiness, and in that emptiness, a voice begins to rise. It is the voice of grief, raw and unfiltered. This is where we enter the book of Lamentations. It gives words to the agony that followed the destruction of Jerusalem. It is the cry of a heart ripped open, a city personified as a weeping widow, abandoned and alone. How deserted lies the city, once so full of people. How like a widow is she, who was once great among the nations. Up to this point, the lament has focused on the external suffering, the enemies, the destruction, the loneliness. But now, the poem turns inward. There is a crucial shift from blaming the enemy to acknowledging the root cause. The city herself confesses, "The Lord is righteous, yet I rebelled against his command." This is the turning point in any true lament. It's the moment of honest self-reflection and confession. "My sins have been bound into a yoke," she cries. "By his hands they were woven together." In the desolate ruins of Jerusalem, this small, flickering flame of honest confession is the first sign of hope. Just when the silence of despair seems absolute, a new voice breaks through. This word comes through the prophet Ezekiel, who was himself in exile, living among the captives by the rivers of Babylon. Into this bleak reality, God speaks a promise that must have sounded impossible. "But you, mountains of Israel, will produce branches and fruit for my people Israel," God declares in Ezekiel chapter 36, "for they will soon come home." Can you imagine hearing those words as an exile in Babylon? It was a promise that defied all logic. The barren hills would once again be fruitful. The empty cities would once again be inhabited. Now here is a part of the story that is absolutely crucial for us to understand. It is a truth that humbles us to the core. He looks at his broken, scattered people and says, "It is not for your sake, O house of Israel, that I am going to do these things, but for the sake of my holy name." God's motivation was his own glory. His own reputation was at stake. When the people of Israel were driven from their land and lived as defeated captives, the pagan nations looked on and drew a conclusion. God's actions, therefore, were to set the record straight. Then the nations will know that I am the Lord. God's plan for restoration went far deeper than just bringing the people back to their physical land. He knew that simply changing their location would not solve the root problem. The problem wasn't the land of Babylon, the problem was actually the heart of the people. So God promised something radically new, something that had never happened before. He promised a divine heart transplant. "I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit in you. I will remove from you your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh." The old heart, the one that was stubborn, hard, and unresponsive to God, would be taken out. In its place, God himself would implant a new heart. "And I will put my spirit in you and move you to follow my decrees and be careful to keep my laws. You will live in the land I gave your ancestors. You will be my people, and I will be your God." This restored relationship would then overflow into every area of life. God promises to cleanse them from all their impurities and to bless their land with abundance. The desolate land would become like the Garden of Eden. The ruined, deserted, and destroyed cities would be rebuilt and securely inhabited. People would look at what God had done and be amazed, and only when they faced that truth could they ever begin to hope for restoration. We have walked through the ruins of Jerusalem. We have felt the sorrow of a scattered people. Now it's time to bring this story home, right into the center of our own lives. Because the truth is, we all experience seasons of exile. They may not look like a forced march to Babylon, but they carry the same emotional weight. An exile is any place or season where we feel distant from God, alienated from others, and far from the home our soul longs for. Perhaps your exile is a place of relational breakdown. A friendship has fractured, a family is divided, or a marriage feels lonely and empty. Or maybe your exile is vocational. You feel unseen, purposeless, and stuck in a job that drains the life out of you. It can be an exile of grief, wandering in the desolate land of loss after the death of a loved one. When we find ourselves in a season of exile, especially one brought on by our own sin, it can be easy to believe that God is angry and has abandoned us. The book of Hebrews tells us to endure hardship as discipline. God is treating you as his children. This perspective really does change everything. His discipline is a rescue mission. It is designed to wake us up, to turn us around, and to draw us back into the safety of his presence. He is lovingly chiseling away the parts of us that do not look like Jesus, making us fit for the home he is preparing for us. Making us fit for the home he is preparing for us. The core problem for Israel was not their location, but the condition of their hearts. The same is true for us. We can try to fix ourselves. We can make New Year's resolutions, read self-help books, and try with all our might to be better people. What we truly need is not renovation. We need a complete demolition and reconstruction. We need a new heart. The promise made in Ezekiel chapter 36 finds its ultimate fulfillment in Jesus Christ. When we put our faith in him, God performs that divine heart transplant he promised so long ago. He puts his Holy Spirit within us to be our guide, our comforter, and the power source for a new way of life. The Bible tells us that, as believers in Jesus, our true citizenship is in heaven. This world is not our final home. We are strangers and pilgrims on this earth, longing for a city whose architect and builder is God. This is why, even when things are going well, we can feel a deep, persistent ache in our souls. Living as citizens of a future home gives us a dual perspective. We are called to be fully present here and now. We are to be the hands and feet of Jesus to others who are hurting and lost in their own exiles. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain. We have journeyed together through a story of profound brokenness and even more profound hope. His faithfulness is not a passive, waiting kind of faithfulness. It is an active, pursuing, relentless faithfulness. He went into the heart of their exile, into the darkness of Babylon, and he spoke a word of life. This is the same faithfulness that pursues you today, right where you are. In your loneliness, in your confusion, in the consequences of your choices, he is there. He is faithful. You can stake your entire life on that single glorious truth. The story of exile ultimately ends with a promise. It is the promise of restoration, the promise of a new heart, and the promise of coming home. This is not just a promise for ancient Israel, it is the promise offered to every single one of us through Jesus Christ. He is the one who stepped into our ultimate exile and made a way for us to return. To embrace this promise means we actively live in the reality of what God has done and what He will do. We nurture that heart through prayer, through His Word, and through community with other believers. Embracing the promise also means living with our eyes fixed on our true home. We are living for a different city, a different kingdom, offering the same hope of restoration to a world that is lost and longing for a home it cannot find on its own. We will be His people, and He will be our God. We will finally and forever be home.